Triggers. Triggers are stored programs which are automatically executed or fired when some event occurs. And triggers are in fact written to be executed in response to any of the following events, such as data manipulation statements such as delete, insert, update, data definition statements such as create, alter, or drop, and data operations such as server down, log on, log off, start up, or shut down. You might be thinking, what is the difference between the stored procedures and triggers? So we will see stored procedure in later section, but the stored procedures is a user-defined piece of code written in the local version of the PLSQL or database engine, which may return a value, making it a function that is invoked by calling it explicitly. Whereas a trigger is a stored procedure that runs automatically when a various event happens, such as update, insert, or delete. So to better understand this, we can take an analogy of object-oriented programming. So a stored procedure can be thought of a method in object-oriented programming, and triggers can be thought of event handlers that can handle the event itself or do some processing and allow for the event to continue using a method. In terms of the uses, allow you to specify SQL actions that should be executed automatically when a specific event occurs. So it allows for that. And also it allows you automatically update a record in one table whenever a record is changed or inserted into another table. Triggers can be a little bit tricky. We use create or replace keyword on trigger and give it a name, and we can also specify we want to trigger it before, after, instead, on table, or also from a reference table also. And we can also specify the for each row what the trigger statement would do. In syntax, the event here, the keyword event is referring to insert, update, delete, or truncate operation. So this might sound a little bit hard to grab, but in terms of implementation, it is pretty simple. So for this example of the trigger, we will try to log data into anomaly log table whenever there is a weird value in the products table being inserted. That is, if the unit price is less than 0, the table called value anomaly log having ID created at and created by user. Now moving ahead, for the trigger function definition, we'll define a function first, and then we will use that function to create a trigger. In here, we will define anomaly log trigger function, fxn, and we use that in anomaly log trigger. You just use create or replace a function keyword and then give it a function name, and it returns as a trigger and then we in the begin statement we define what the function does. So in our case, if the unit price is less than 0, give it like a column values ID created by user, and the values will be new.product ID, now, and current user. And we close the begin statement over here and also return the new. Before we end SQL, we give $ language PLP SQL over here. And then once the function is created, we use create or replace trigger keyword to create a trigger, in this case anomaly log trigger. And after an insert or update operation, we want to trigger this trigger on product table. For each row, execute procedure anomaly log function log trigger function. So in terms of the testing, we can go ahead and check the values in the value anomaly log table, and then try to insert a -1 in the product with the unit price of -1 in the product table to test the insert operation, whether that is being triggered by the trigger operation or not. And then we also checked by update operation by giving a unit price which is higher than 1000, in this case 2000. And then we'll also give it a normal statement which perfectly satisfy within the boundary, so the trigger will not be occurring. So let's move ahead and let's do some hands-on and see this example in action. So for that, I will open my PC admin over here, and I'll just move this down. The first thing we want to do is create the value anomaly log table. Create table, and then we'll give it a value log as a name. And then within the table definition, we'll have ID as int, and then created underscore at, so it will be timestamp. And then once we have the created by user, and this will be var char for now, so just to store a user's value. And then we can run this table to create our table, run this code to create our table, and sure enough it was successful. So we'll just see if we have any values in our table. We can do select all from, since we have just created this table, there shouldn't be any value, and we'll select this SQL Server, and sure enough we have the table without the value. Now moving ahead with the example, I'll just comment this too. We'll first create the function to insert the values into the table whenever we insert a values into unit product with the value less than 0 or greater than 0, the unit price. So let's go ahead and create a function. So I'll just say create or replace if there is already present another function. Now we'll call this anomaly log trigger fxn. Okay, fxn, so as a function, and within this function it will returns trigger, and then we'll define as, and then we start with the $sign, and within this $sign we have begin, and we'll have end, and we'll also close the $sign over here as language PGSQL. And then within this begin is where we define our statement. So if we'll get this new keyword and then unit price, now we'll insert into value anomaly log table we created initially. So the name has to be same, just to be cautious about there. So the date will be the current date user. So the user will be current user, and then we will in if, and we can also indent this a little bit to make it more readable, and then after this we'll return the new. Now we have created the function. This function will be used by the trigger statement. So we'll now create a trigger. So we have to do here it create or replace trigger is the keyword over here. Trigger, and when this trigger will be occurring is whenever there is an insert or update operation. So after, we can also do before, as I mentioned before, AFTR after insert or update operation. So there will be insertion and updation. We will not restrict the flow, but we'll log that. So on, now we will just use this function over here and paste it over here, and then give a semicolon. So now we'll run this function and see if we have any triggers available. So we can also check in event triggers over here. So let me see what the said. So create a trigger return query in 88 milliseconds. So we can just go ahead and check if this works or not by inserting the values. Let's go ahead and insert first. I'll give it some space. Now we are going to see if there is any value or not. I will just select this select statement over here, and then I will try to run it and then see if there is any value right now. So sure enough, we don't have any value. And now we will insert an, so we can also select from products table and see if there are any noodles present or not. So before inserting, select asterisk from PRO product table. So if we select this and run it, so we have mango, orange, apple, cabbage, tomato, cauliflower, broccoli, mango juice, milk, and bread. And sure enough, there is no noodles present. So we can now insert into PRDOCT product, and the name should have name unit price, category name, description, and values would be. In this case, I will knowingly put value as -1, mimicking that a user might input a value -1. Then food, and I'll give a description from wheat. Okay. Now I'll just comment this. I'll just remove this scratch pad over here. Now okay, I'll select this and insert this value into the products table. And so what it's saying, the key product ID equals to 1 already exists. So we had not increased the product ID. So we probably have to give a product ID name as well. So we have 10. I will try to insert into the 11. So we will just keep PRODUCT product underscore ID. And then the value would be, in this case, 11. And then try to run this. So run it, and sure enough, we were successful to insert this. If you select the product table and see, so we have a 11th number called noodles and -1 and food and made from wheat. So also, if we go ahead and check our value anomaly log table, you should have one value inserted over there. So sure enough, so ID with an 11 has the created it now, and the user is Postgres because I'm logged in with the default Postgres user. Um, One thing to note over here is like we are logging either. So this table will basically give a user information that the value is either unit price is either less than 0 or greater than 1 for the product ID of 11. So, and they can go ahead and then check that value and fix it, and then remove this value from here later on. So kind of like analyzes user fixing some input errors and that kind of operation. Now moving ahead, we saw the insert operation. Now let's look at the update operation over here, and we will try to update noodles product as 2000 and see what happens. So update product, and we'll set name noodle 1, and then we'll have a unit price to be 2000 for this one, where product ID, which was 11 in our case. So I'll try to change that 11 product ID, which we inserted in above example. So you can see your table and also update the other ones as well. So if we try to update this one, or update, let's say, number 10, product ID with number 10, then let me go ahead and see. What's the error over here? Set name equals to noodle. Let me just give it a single quote over here. And the unit price equals to 200. And then where did this one? So let me go ahead and try to change this one. Right. And sure enough, we see update query done successfully. So let's go ahead and check the products table again. And then once you go to products table, so the the ID with 10 has been changed to noodle 1 and the value is set to 200. And we can also see our value anomaly log table and then see that another row has been inserted over here whenever there is an update operation. So we can also let's change this back to using a normal operation. So let's change this noodle with ID 10 to 20, and then we will see that there won't be any rows and present in our case. So we'll just give it a name, strawberry. Okay, and then we will just hit enter. It ran successfully. Now if we go back and check the products table first, so we can see that the 10 has strawberry, value is 20, groceries. And if we go and check our value anomaly log table, let's select this and run this, then we see that there has been no triggers applied to it because this does not fall outside of 0, which is not less than 0 and greater than 1000. So the trigger is not applied. Now, in this section, we saw triggers. In the next section, we'll be seeing transactions.